Welcome back to the Sexuality and Aging lectures. So this week we're talking about two things, right? The biological side of sexual wellness as well as the psychological side, which this is going to focus on. So there's a lot of things that go into the psychological side, and we talked about a ton of these things earlier as I listed them in the biopsychosocial model lecture. So that has everything to do with this space right here. What happens between the ears, right? So that is a huge part of sexuality. And today we're going to focus specifically on a construct that's very interesting to me, sexual self-esteem. And within that, talk a lot about body image because that's a pretty big part of sexual self-esteem. So what is sexual self-esteem? It's basically the evaluation of your sexual self or your sexual worth. It's been defined in a few different ways by different sex researchers. An individual's perception of his or her qualities in the sexual domain, an understanding of oneself as a sexual person. An individual's evaluation of his or her own sexual thoughts, feelings, actions. But basically, it is that it has an evaluative component, right? And it's your perception of a lot of your own sexuality or what is being sexual that you identify with. And I thought this was interesting. I looked up a sexual self-esteem measure. And some of the questions that they're asking are, intimate partners have found me sexually satisfying. Most of my friends are better looking than I am. I feel comfortable in my sexuality. I like my body. I try to be healthy. I like to take care of my appearance. It's very hard for me to know how to behave in a sexual situation. I'm confident people will find me attractive. I know how to behave with a sexual partner. I enjoy engaging in sex. I am confident about being able to get a boyfriend or girlfriend. I feel good about my sexual behavior, and those types of questions. So you can kind of get the gist of this construct here in sexual self-esteem. It has that evaluative component, and it's about your own sexual experiences, your perception of your sexual experiences, and then there's that worth part, right? Am I confident? Am I worthy? Do I look good? Do I feel confident? So how we see ourselves, our bodies, our partners, sex itself. And as I said, it's all that stuff that goes on in between the ears, which is the most important sex organ, is the brain. In fact, I think it was Dr. Ruth who's quoted to say the most important 6 inches in sex are the ones between your ears. So that's what we're interested in today. Okay, so I want to give you a little bit of an example. So we found this construct in the research that I did. So some of the responses that you looked at in the last reflection, those are from research that I did on sexual wellness and people self-defining. So we got a lot of people talking about this sexual self-esteem construct. And I wanted to give you an example here. And this is from a 54-year-old now single woman. Knowing that I am a whole person without a partner is sexual wellness. And knowing that I can maintain a sense of self in a relationship with a partner, that is sexual well-being. This is indicative of having sexual self-esteem. Knowing that you're whole, evaluating yourself as a whole person, even without a partner, you are worthy, is your identity. And you can maintain that sense of self or that worth in yourself without any external reinforcements. So that's a very strong sexual wellness and a very strong sexual self-esteem. I just wanted to give you a quick example. It includes a lot of things, like I said. Your body image and your body esteem is a really big concept within sexual self-esteem. We're going to talk about that. Your confidence, how confident you feel sexually, confidence in yourself, feeling desirable, feeling attractive, even feeling respected. These are all part of your evaluation of your worth sexually. And your identity, your sexual self. with or without a partner, right? So you might define your sexual self always in concert with another person or individually, right? It's me. I might be with other people, but my conception of my own sexuality is about mine and not mine with someone else. So it can happen a lot of different ways. All right. So let's transition into body image. And you read the article by Montemurro about aging women and body image. So this is a lot of data comes from there, as well as a review article I have on aging and body image. So we're going to go into men and women. So first, you get the sense from the article in Montemurro's article that older women aren't really affected, that their body image kind of stays robust because somehow they've, sloughed off the expectations of Hollywood and remained fairly confident in their own selves. So this is a nice idea, and it is relevant because they did have individuals who said that. However, the larger body of research would say that, a lot of women and older men still continue to struggle with body image issues and feel the pressure still of those ideals, those beauty and youth ideals that are out there. However, I don't want to paint a dire picture either. It's not like all older people are out there thinking, I'm not confident in myself, I don't like my body, look at that wrinkled, grain, ugly person in the mirror. That's not true. It is generally a time of growth and acceptance in older age. We tend to get a little bit more wise. We tend to have a few less fetters and pay less attention to social messages than we did when we were younger, or even in middle age. Seems to be a very high or acute awareness of those ideals, and they kind of press upon body image in older women in particular. But older age might be a time of growth and acceptance about your body as well. One thing that we want to be careful of is just stereotyping one way or the other, right? We want to let an older adult tell us what they think. So a lot of times when we're assessing something like sexual self-esteem or body image, we just want to be open about it. Some questions you might want to think about are, do you feel confident in your sexuality? What do you like about your body? What makes you feel sexy? What, if anything, would you change if you could? And kind of getting at these open-ended questions to see where the older adult is at. Perhaps they feel confident and comfortable with their body. Perhaps they feel anxious about it, and it's something that they don't want to do. It reminds me of the middle-aged women in the Montemurro study who felt very anxious when they thought about dating another person because they didn't want to be seen naked by another person. They were worried about what they would think about from their older or aging bodies. So that type of experience is very valid and can be there and needs to be addressed if it's there. As I said, when assessment, you want to ask some open-ended questions if, in fact, you're doing a sexual assessment. And also, there are some scales out there that are available, and I'm happy to give you references to those for sexual self-esteem and sexual body image in particular. All right. So what about older women in particular? So we had a couple of I have a couple of studies that looked at it, and you read the Montemurro study, like I said, which tended to paint a pretty good picture of older women, right? Not so much about younger women and middle-aged women, but it gave us a nice sense that older women are settling in. Okay. All right. So when the Montemurro study results say that dissatisfaction with your body does happen in older women, but albeit less than when you're younger, and in particular when you're in middle age too, right? So the women in this study tended to have less and less over time. They noted an awareness of the ideals and the importance of a fetching appearance, right, in the article, but the older women seem to be less concerned with that particular ideal on their own image, and they didn't feel that their worth was tied up necessarily in not fulfilling those ideals. What we do find in other studies is that older women do report feeling this continued pressure to conform to these beauty norms, though, of youth and attractiveness, which is true. All of the women in the Montemurro study also indicated that attractiveness was important, not necessarily age-related for all of them, but attractiveness at some level, which you guys brought up in the conversation, right? So we don't see any unattractive people, which I would just say, normal people in ads. But that's true. All women acknowledged that attractiveness was an important part. However, when we look at older women in their, maybe the attenuation of body, the cultural impact of body esteem over time, they tend to be less obsessed with this thin ideal. Which is from a review article. So younger women, in particular, westernized younger women, tend to have this obsession with a thin ideal and a thin body, which I'm sure you're well aware of. You live in society. But older women tended to, even if they did have dissatisfaction with their body, it tended not to conform to this very thin ideal that younger women do. The review study also brought up the role of acculturation in this. So when we see immigrant populations that come into a westernized society that have these thin beauty ideals, older women who immigrate later in life are more resilient to those than younger women. So younger women who have been acculturated into the Western culture or have lived in the US for a long time tend to adopt these thin ideals. So we see women like studies with older Muslim women and older Russian women and older Chinese women who seem to be less affected by or have less body esteem issues, particularly around thinness, than their younger counterparts of the same experience, right? So these younger women who come in and are acculturated into US culture or Western culture, wherever they are immigrating to, they tend to take on these ideals. All right, so as I said before, older women still do feel this pressure to conform to a social norm that says your body should look like this if you're going to be sexual. All right, so I'm going to show you a quick video from Britain, and this is related to older women and body image because it's one of the things we talk about a lot in the discussion board, which is how can we stop some of this ageist ideals from happening. And I found this ad, sort of a public service announcement against ageist stereotypes for older women's bodies, and I wanted to show it to you. So we're just going to watch it quick here.
Have you bought a moisturiser recently? I was trawling through the skincare range the other day in the supermarket, looking for something to put on my face in the morning, and I was appalled to discover that 90% of the lotions on offer are of the anti-aging variety. The choice was mind-boggling. Anti-aging radiance serum, wrinkle reduction creams,
ultimate lift lotions for mature skins,
firming day creams to reduce the appearance of fine lines.
Energizing fluids for tired
Energizing fluids for tired skin.
replumping night cream,
Replumping night cream. Wrinkle decrease collagen replumpers.
double lifting dermo pumps,
Double lifting dermo pumps. Regenerating oils.
pro contouring systems,
Age spot correctors. And the list goes on and on and on. And on and on and on and on and on. I'm going to be 40 next year and I like my face. It tells a story. The story of a woman who has laughed and cried and spent a little too long in the sun. My face shows wisdom and strength, vulnerability and experience, and a few scars from a life lived fully. When we spend all our time and money wishing we looked younger or thinner or different,
we miss out on now.
we are constantly striving to look like we did or like we wished we had. like we hope we will one day.
We ignore what we have and lose touch with who we are.
Own your body.
Be beautiful and drink.
Be beautiful and have laughter lines.
Be beautiful with age spots, blemishes, and uneven skin tone.
Because I'm worth it. 39 and a half times over.
Okay. So just a few seconds to debrief there. I thought that that was an example of a nice empowering, age-positive type of public service announcement that was run in Britain. And just like the Dove Beauty ads and the sort of embracing all sizes and all types and all ages, those are the types of ads that we need, right, in order to combat ageist beliefs and help people kind of reverse the onslaught of youth beauty that they feel, and then the subsequent effect on body image and sexual self-esteem, particularly as you age and you get closer to those feared things of wrinkles and grain and aging. Okay, but women are not alone in this. Do older men also have problems between the ears? Yes. They have body image issues as well, sexual self-esteem issues, just like older women, although we tend to focus more on older women or women in general because those ideals for women are so strong in culture, but they are for men too. When you think about masculine norms that affect older men's body image, we get a lot about youth and vitality and fitness, so being potent, being healthy, being fit, and of course, losing your hair, right? So that's a huge one for men. It's like one of the most oppressive stigmas is losing your hair, which is ridiculous because it's genetic and it's of no fault of anyone's, but somehow we've relegated balding men to like the bottom rung of any gender society. So that's a pretty strong one when we think about body image for men and all of the products and all of the surgeries and all of the things that we do to prevent that kind of thing. But we also see very muscular, masculine norms for fitness and health, right? So living up to those ideals. Men are definitely susceptible to masculine norms, to be muscular, to be fit, and also when we look at sort of subcultures of men, older gay males are likely susceptible to even stronger body image pressure because in the gay male culture, there's a lot more importance on youth beauty, similarly to what women experience. But in the gay male culture, we tend to have higher ideals about men's appearance. And therefore, I think older gay men are at higher risk for body image issues or lower sexual self-esteem. When we look at studies on body image for older men, a lot of times when you get older, you are focused on if you look healthy and if you look fit, right? So when you're younger as a man, you're a little bit more focused on your appearance. Do I look muscly? Do I have the curves? Do I have the washboard abs? Do I have a very strong jaw? Those types of things. But in older age, I find that it shifts a little from appearance to healthy ideals and looking healthy. And of course, part of looking healthy is having your hair, unfortunately. Older men report concerns for body image less so than younger men, so that's similar across genders. And they tend to, when we look at older men versus older women, have higher body esteem for themselves than older women in general. They tend to be hit harder by declines in their physical functioning than they are in an appearance. So it's not the case for older women. Older women tend to be hit the hardest by appearance-related issues like the wrinkles and the graying and the sagging and all of that stuff. And with men, it's manifested mostly as physical functioning and am I fit or healthy looking. Okay. So that's, in a nutshell, the body esteem literature and information. And that's under, again, the umbrella of sexual self-esteem. There are many, many more psychological variables that you can go into and in more depth. And I would encourage you, if you're interested in a particular one on that list that I had in the biopsychosocial lecture or in the articles that you're reading, put it up for a possible topic in week 8, and we will definitely cover it. So there is a poll live in your modules page that says poll, and it's at the very top. And if you have any areas that you're interested in, doesn't have to be the psychological side or biological side, whatever you think you are interested in to dig into more further that we're not going to cover, feel free to fill out that poll as much as you want, and we will see towards the end what gets sort of the most votes, and we'll cover some of those things. All right. So next up for you guys are sexual stigma attitudes, and some of you have already filled out the survey. Thanks. I'm hoping that the link's working out for you in SurveyMonkey. And I've had a few people ask me about, well, did I complete it? You know, did you get my results? And it's okay if you didn't fully complete it, or if you don't know if you did, or if you don't know if I got your results. I'm not as interested in your results as in which ones did you tick off, as your perception of the survey and your experience of taking it. So really just click on that survey link in the reflection, go through each one of the questions and respond. You can respond to what you personally believe. They're anonymous. And then what I want you to do in the reflection is really to think about, how do we measure sexual stigma, and are we doing it well in this particular measure, which is based on kind of a long-standing attitudes measure by White in late 70s, early 80s, I believe. So that's what I want to hear from you, is your perception of the survey and how you think we should be looking at this sexual stigma variable. All right, so that's it for the psychological side lectures for this week. Definitely get through the readings, check out the reflections, and good luck on your assignments. Bye.